We actually had an interesting conversation recently about the NIL and the state of college football. So, of course, the national championship just happened. Georgia Bulldogs, back to back champions, 15 and 0, 19 and 9. I'm sorry, 15 and 0, 24 and 1. 20, I'm sorry, 15 and 0, 29 and 1 over the last 2 years. Got to get the math right.
Let us know when you're done. Let us know when you're done.
Okay, we'll do. 7 players drafted in the first round off the defense. Going to have all of them coming back next year. Only losing 3 players as well. 2 of them will be in the first round. Okay, now I'm done. But now we're in the off season, and the state of college football has been forever changed with the transfer portal, as well as the NIL. The NIL name, image, and likeness is out. Many coaches are using it to get players to come to their school. One such instance that colleges are using now is actually getting players to stay. So,
funding campaign based in NIL designed to retain key Michigan football players, starting with Blake Corum, Cornelius Johnson, Trevor Keegan, and Zach Zinter. Donate now to support the 2023 National Championship run. Since this fund was launched, over $100,000 has been pledged from 972 supporters. I believe this is the first school to do this, but I wouldn't be surprised if this becomes a massive trend. Here's how.
So basically, I don't know how true. Basically, there's something called the 1 year fund where they're using the NIL to get players to stay in college, which to me was part of the reason they created the NIL, because they were losing all of the players to leave early, and they weren't playing in bowl games and etc. So that was a part of the reason that they created the NIL, especially. But it was more towards basketball, because basketball was losing out to the G League. They were losing so many players to the G League versus playing in college. With that being said, it's very, very interesting that this has happened, and I do agree. I do believe that this has been happening for a long time, but the fact that it's been made a public forum now is it's kind of revolutionary.
So I actually have a different point of view on this. He says that for 4 players, they raised $100,000
So far.
Mm-hmm. Well, the minimum salary for NFL players is $400,000. Mm-hmm. You're not convincing me for $25,000 that I will forego $400,000.
I think you're looking at this wrong. I don't think, one, this isn't the only NIL deal. This is just a
yeah,
NIL
but this
deal.
one ain't gonna get me. This ain't selling me, bro.
No, it's not. But if I'm at 375 and this one pushes me to 400, or if I'm at 475 and this one pushes me to 500, I might stay. You never know. I mean, I just think it's interesting that they're using this pretty much as saying, "Hey, we want you to stay. Here's some money." And there's nothing you can really do about it. I wonder how long this happens before they make regulations on it.
Where it gets scary is when you get a player who could leave early, and somebody gives him the $400K to stay. That is where it truly.
That's what this is.
Yeah. Yes, but the reason I say no is they're not going to get to default. They're not going to get to enough to compensate these 4 players for foregoing. But eventually, somebody's going to be good enough that somebody's going to be willing to pay you to stay another year. I'm trying to think of who would be the person who is good enough for somebody to be like, you know what, we could run it back with you one more time.
Jordan Davis.
Oh, Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow would have been a guy who I would have considered a candidate for this type of deal. And I could
Joe
understand.
Burrow, no way, because Joe Burrow was a number 1 overall pick. I don't think that.
You're right. That's where I think you're gonna the shakeout is gonna be weird, because the people who you are going to be able to pay that to, it's going to take a lot of money to convince a person to forego their first year, to forego a year NFL.
Well, I mean, Blake Corum, who is the best probably the best player on Michigan offensively, came back. I mean, I think a lot of this is to entice them to stay. And again, you're saying this as if this is the only NIL. This is just saying, hey, we need to raise money. You can do it here, and then there's other NIL deals. There are more than one NIL deals. You can have as many as you want.
How much the most people are getting paid, because there's the NIL is so they're not really telling you much. There's not enough information.
Yeah, it's unregulated.
Who's the guy who's
Bryce Young? I think they said Bryce Young was worth, when he first got to Alabama after the first year, was worth like $15 million. As soon as he got there, I think Arch Manning was worth $10 million in high school.
Who do you think has gotten a $15 million?
Bryce Young, Arch Manning.
I'm in 100 support of 100% support of that, but I gotta see. Okay, what is it? See, these are valuations. Okay, Bryce Young, Crimson Tide quarterback, is the highest NIL earner. Young has had a total valuation of 3.2 in NIL deals.
Oh no, that's not. He had that coming into college.
Yeah, that was October. But I mean, I love to see this. I love to see this because it is nothing but young black men getting paid life-changing money in college.
Well, there's another side to this. So then there's 5-star quarterback Jaden Rashada, who actually requested his release from his national letter of intent from Florida. He's the 29th ranked player in 2023 because allegedly a $13.1 million NIL deal was promised to him if he signed with Florida, and they decided not to pay him after he turned in his national letter of intent. And it must have been some credence to it because they granted him his release.
Stop making promises you can't keep. Florida, Florida State, Georgia, I don't care where it is. And I hate it. It's the team that I support. You promised me $13 million, you better have my $13 million.
This is why I think the NCAA will come in and start regulating this soon. They have to. Because you're going to have more and more of this issue with players not getting
so?
there. Yeah. And then there's a third issue that comes in with the transfer portal. Texas A&M is dealing with this right now, where they sign.
One and done. They one and done in college.
They sign for Texas A&M. They get the NIL money, and then they transfer.
Oh, well, you know the answer to that is going to be just in the contract. You got to be here for this many years. You got to play this many plays. You got to do something. Well, I'm not paying you a ton of money for you to take my money and run. It's just like a reload package or anything, or a bonus that you get. You got to be here for 2 years for you get all the money, or you got to give us some of the money back. You gonna do the same thing?
Well, I mean,
people
if that's the case,
write all contracts.
Well, if that's the case, then I mean, that's not gonna keep me from staying. If I want to leave, I'm gonna leave, because it's the same way as if a free agent leaves or you want to trade for somebody or get somebody in the pros. Hey, you have, in order for me to, the buyout for my contract is $2 million. Well, this next NIL deal, you need to include the buyout package. Then you need to pay me. So I don't think that's gonna work at all.
I hate to say it, and you know what, this is gonna sound bad, but I'm a realist, and as a person who's worked in sports, I'm gonna put a clause in there where you can't leave without giving me a percentage of the money back. And let's be real, these kids' parents gonna spend their money. That money gone.
That don't matter, because if I want to transfer, okay, let's take Dayon Bowie, called Smoke Bowie. from Bainbridge, Georgia, had committed to Georgia for 2 years. All of a sudden, at the end, Texas A&M, he committed to Texas. He switched his commitment to Texas A&M. Texas A&M had the highest rated recruiting class of all time. They had They had like 15 5-stars. That's the same year that Nick Saban said, "We know that you paid him." It's the same year that Travis Hunter went to Jackson State. We know that you paid those guys. Now, he's leaving, and he's transferred, and he's coming back to Georgia. Now, Texas A&M has their own issues going on, but if he's coming back to Georgia, and I've talked to Georgia, well, I'm going to approach the downtown athletic club and say, I have to pay back 30% of my NIL deal, which was $4 million. I got to pay back $1.2 million of that. I want an NIL deal to come here, or I'll just go to somewhere else. Okay, well, your NIL deal is going to be worth $5 million here, plus we're going to buy you out of the NIL deal over there to get you over here. I can see that happening.
If I get
easily.
bought out, at least I have the piece of getting my money back.
Yeah. But I'm saying that's not gonna. You writing a contract saying that? I mean, that's not gonna keep me from leaving. I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna leave.
But for the school, if you continue to not, once again, Florida, great job. Their name got to be mud now.
Oh yeah.
You don't lose just him. You lose the people who are like, oh no, they got funny money.
Mm-hmm.
You have to, and I hate that we have to be the first one to mess it up
publicly. First ones to mess it up publicly is other teams. Texas A&M has literally lost half of their recruiting class from that year because they have they had people smoking weed in the locker room. They had
Jimbo Fisher he got them between a rock and a hard place, boy.
And he's between the rock and the bank. And they have to buy him out at what was his contract was $70 million?
Basically, every year, it's like $10 million. Mm-hmm. So if you try to get rid of him at the beginning of the year, you'd have to pay him the whole 100. Year 9, $90 million. Year 8, $80 million, so on and so forth. He's rich. He done made it.
Yeah, he has.